We are here. It's a pleasure to see you, and to see you is a pleasure yet again, over and over and over and over, as times change, and sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But I will talk to you about the patterns of retribution which are so immortalized in cinema, and a desire that people have. Now, some people say the best revenge is living well. Well, I'll give you an example of redirecting one's energy. Now, for example, Person A was the brother of someone who was married with children who was murdered in a terrorist attack. Now, what do you do in that situation? Do you then find out who the perpetrators were and find out what ideology motivated those perpetrators? Hello. And then dedicate your life to destroying that ideology? Well, that's one particular thing. Another possibility is to recognize that possibly the perpetrators were victims of a subset of an ideology. So it's maybe not necessarily the ideology itself, but a subset of that ideology, a combination of circumstance and politics, the standard human condition. It could be, for example, that the enemy is not those particular people, even though it seems as though that's the case, who murdered his sister and her husband and children, his nephews. But it could be that the human psychology manifests in such a way that it can be sucked into various ideologies depending on location, circumstance, and grievances. Now, if that is true, what do you do? Do you dedicate your life no longer buying food from anyone who creates that food, who is of an associated ideology? Do you do that? Well, you can try going through all of these forms of retribution and hatred. And that might be the only way you can do it for 10 or 15 or 20 years. The beauty of living this long is that you can go through this anger for a long period of time. Because in my particular case, I am the child of that person whose sister was murdered. That means I never got to meet his sister. However, the sadness of it permeates so that anyone here who has gone through a terrorist attack, it can affect your children as well, because the children grow up knowing that they can't meet someone over the fact that someone else had stolen that person from you and your father and or mother. So you can go through many, many years of finding out how to deal with such anger, but what one learns is to redirect that retribution into understanding. And that gives you a form of liberation, I found. But I don't know if that's possible to go through immediately. Your immediate feeling might be that you want some sort of closure, explanation, justice, retribution, revenge. You go through all of these things. But what I have come to learn over multiple stories is that it only destroys the person seeking that revenge. You start to find that everywhere in history. We know from World War I and the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, which led to the First World War, the people who were seeking revenge against the Serbian Empire for that assassination all were wiped out. So the Austro-Hungarian Empire was wiped out, and what did we have left from that? Nothing. And of course, it gave rise to the revenge, another revenge, a double revenge, which fueled the rise of Hitler, and then of course gave the Third Reich. But long story short, can you divert it to something else? Well, the answer is that if you do divert it to something else, over the years, becoming a better version of yourself helps with your desire for retribution. So I'll give you another example. Person A this time was friends with person B, and person C was in love with person B. So person A was a male at school, person B was a female, and person C was a male as well. Person C was in love with person B. Person A and person B were friends, but it was not romantic. Person C decides to spread rumors about person A. Now, the rumors can be whatever you want it to be, right? You've gone through these things, I'm sure, many of you. Now, for years, I was person A, and I wanted, how dare person C do this? How dare they do this? Now, instead of getting revenge on person C, over the years, the choices, what happened, g'day, Kason, person C what you can recognize is that if someone has it within their personality to spread rumors, you love person Z, there you go, then they are capable of making other self-destructive choices. You can't know that as a school student, right? And so I was angry, but over the years I saw person C slowly, oh g'day, decay into a horrible future. Now I'm not happy that they have a horrible future, but the point is that their own choices result in their future going into a worse place. Now, if I had dedicated my time to get revenge on this person, then I myself would have chosen a worse future for myself. And instead, I became someone, a better version, not necessarily a good version, but a better version of what I would have been had I chose the path of revenge. Now, of course, you can't apply this globally. So I can't necessarily forgive the people who murdered my auntie and my cousins, whom I never met. But can I seek to understand human psychology enough to understand why people fall into these ideologies? Yes. And then does that allow me to start to see other ideologies like radical leftism or radical right-wing fascism or extremism or Bolshevism or extremist religious movements? You start to then, there's 8 billion people in the world, you ignore most of them. That is the smart way. G'day Hakim, ahla sahla. So anyway, the point is it hard? Yes. Is it impossible? Possibly in many cases. But if you can divert some of your energy away from retribution to building a better version of yourself, then in the short term, it's extremely painful and almost unbearable. But in the long term, it can often make a massive difference. And it's helped me. It's released me from a lot of hatred from people who did stuff to me that was almost unforgivable, I would say. Now, I can't talk about people who were necessarily physically abused or, targeted horrible acts. I can't talk about all those people. If you've been in something that horrific, I'm not here to say, therefore, you can apply what I'm saying. I'm saying more, look, the terrorist attack part, that's something that's taken years. It took me probably 40 years to learn to accept and forgive those who murdered my family. So I don't expect that that's possible for most people. And I wasn't directly there. I'm the son of the person to whom it happened. So if you count their time and my time together, you're looking at 80 years to forgive what happened. No, that's not true, because it happened when they were 60 years. Sorry, 60 years to forgive, and it might never happen. So yeah, I'm talking some sort of reasonable spectrum where someone lies about you, someone talks about you, someone spreads rumors about you, and people believe it. But look, the people who believe it are people that were not people who were going to like you necessarily, and if they were, it was going to be conditional. And over a long term of time, once you better yourself, it becomes very hard for people to believe that what the other people said was true. That's something I've learned over time, but that's something I had to learn the hard way, where spending 15 years redirecting my career to the point where people now see the result of that and say, well, it's not possible that what they said about him was true. And that's the way to do it, as opposed to defending oneself or saying it's not true because of this or because of that. It doesn't work. So that's the long, very long way of doing it. So if you have the patience and you have 20 years up your sleeve, focus on bettering yourself, because at the end of those 10 or 20 years, you may feel much better than had you conducted a systematic process of revenge and retribution. One of the other things I think with retribution is that it changes you as a person, because you live with the fact that you've done things as nasty as what the other people did to you. And so you don't become the person that could necessarily help other people. Look, again, it's easy to say. In real life, is that really possible? Look, I can tell you it's almost impossible in my case. So, and my stuff wasn't even that bad. So if you've been through stuff that's, to the degree of hell, being subject to psychopathy, then I'm not necessarily saying that this would work for you at all. All right. But it's something I wanted to share with you. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. All the best. And don't forget to take life one smack at a time, ladies and gentlemen.